Recording in progress.
And let's do the 4 limitless contemplation. You'll find these very interesting because they call it in all this teaching I'm going to give you the 4 divine abodes, but they're actually none other than the 4 immeasurables or the 4. So you'll find a lot might have a different title, but this prayer is really a very important, called the 4 divine modes. So let's do it together. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem jendam je dewa tang dewe ju tang den ba ju jig dungal chichu tang drawa ju jig dungal mepe dewa tampa tang mindrawa ju jig nering chak tang ni tang drawe tang nom chempo la ne pa ju jig. So today, everybody, so nice to see all of you. And today I've called it this beautiful thing that David sent me. I've called it an overview of Buddha's teaching from pitfalls to upliftment. It's really such an interesting thing. I'm going to turn it the other way around, this beautiful thing. But I didn't send them to burn, because there was a real good reason why I didn't. Because I thought, David, it's too detailed. It's such a fabulous thing. I would love everybody to actually have this. I don't know if the way. And also, if you can just give us a source. I don't know who actually wrote this. Where, can you just tell us where it comes from exactly? How you got it?
Yeah, I got this at Spirit Rock outside of San Francisco. Spirit Rock is where Jack has a large retreat center.
Okay.
So I have.
You switch your thing off because we're getting an echo. We can't hear. We can't hear David. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
So I got it at Spirit Rock outside of San Francisco. Jack Cornfield runs a large retreat center there.
That's right, yeah.
So I have made laminated copies over time for friends. So, what I can do, I've looked online for the source. I can't find it. So, so what you have there can be reproduced by a photographer or by a print shop. It's actually by a print shop. I took it to a print shop, like an established print shop in Cape Town, and they made me copies, which I had laminated and handed out to friends.
Okay, let's not waste too much time how to get it, but you figured that. That's very good if you can figure that out for us, because I would love people to have this. I think it's really useful, and it gives you the explanations all on one sheet. But more than anything, you can write down a few things that I'm saying today if you want, but we're just going to, you have got the wheel, haven't you, Bern? Not the wheel, the original, the one from here. Okay. So that's really excellent, because if you've got that wheel, we'll put that up in a moment, and that'll be very, very, very useful for all of you. But can we start with the cartoon of the sheep, Bern, if possible? And then later, if you've got the 37 practices of a bodhisattva, if you've got access, if you haven't, don't worry about it. I meant to tell you, but don't worry if you haven't. But if you can, that'll be great. I don't even know if we'll get there, but just let's do the sheep. This is the most important thing. If you look at where he's coming out a trapdoor, cultivate the path to liberation. The ultimate liberation lies beyond the horizon of daily life. Such an important cartoon, that, because you have to go beyond your daily life. And this is Buddhism for sheep, which is such a beautiful thing that I always look up. So just remember that. That's fine. Thanks, Bern. But let's just look at what, now I understand it's Jack Cornfield, and he's very clear with a Western thing. So this is very easy. But imagine having an awakened mind where you see the truth as clearly as a lighted path in front of your eyes. But then you look at all the sentient beings around you, from humans to animals to insects to everything, and you know clearly that they won't understand this clear truth because of long habit conditioning of samsara, okay? And your heart, imagine your heart overflows with compassion for how they are creating their own terrible suffering. What would you do if you had that exquisite, clear truth, okay? You'd either have to turn away from helping them, which is what Buddha did when he first attained enlightenment. He said, I can't teach it, they won't understand. But then the gods came and pleaded with him, Brahma, and then he said, okay. So he had to find a way to put into words and symbols to explain relative truths at different levels, so that each sentient being could begin to understand slowly the truth of themselves and the truth of everything around them. And what's on this sheet is most of these relative truths. So in looking at a particular Zen story, it goes like this. Foods have many flavors, which one could be defined as quintessential. As people's constitutions differ, so do their tastes. Some people like sweet, some people like peppery foods. If you said the flavor you like is the quintessential flavor and the rest are useless, you would be an imbecile. So it is with Buddha's teaching, because people's natural inclinations differ. And it may be that a particular teaching is especially valuable to a given individual, but it becomes false if one clings to it as the unique and only truth to the exclusion of all teachings. Now, that's my very important point of all of this, because, this incredible manner in which, if Jack Cornfield or whoever from his organization carefully prepared so that we can get an overall view of Buddha Dharma on one sheet of cardboard, had to be put together by someone with really deep understanding of how the totally awakened mind of a totally awakened being could fly in a helicopter and give an overview of the Dharma to benefit beings at all different levels. And I've said, Emma Ho, amazing that they could do that for all different beings. And you can do it to lots of beings. We'll just glance at a few today. But please, everybody, whatever appeals to you, look it up. It may not be those words, but you'll find an alternative word. You can Google every single one of these and get whatever you want from it. But basically, when we look at the wheel, the three in the middle, which are called the three characteristics of samsara, the three characteristics of samsara, they actually tell you everything about everything that you need to know. But remember, all of these things are to help you to get liberated on a path. It's really important that you understand that, because these are not ultimate, most of them are not ultimate practices. You start off on that relative level and you go along the journey, most of us. But some of us remember from previous lives a lot of this teaching. So then we want to skip. We want to skip the teaching and go much further. But it's really important to ask yourself if you do really understand that, because, a Buddha has to really look and say, what can I teach them? How will they understand? And only because he was big did he actually get that. But Bern, if you put that wheel on, then we can look right in the middle at the three characteristics. Okay, it goes, and this you can all have, okay? This you can all have, but just let's look right in the middle. Those are the three characteristics. And if you take those in the middle, that's really all you need about your basis of Buddha Dharma. You need impermanence, suffering, and no self. Those are the three characteristics, and those are the basis of absolutely everything. We're going to discuss them. That's why they are right in the center of this wheel, because those are the three things we need to really know. We need to know impermanence. We need to know no self, that there's no permanent self. And we need to know suffering and what its true meaning is about. And once you've got all of those three, it starts expanding into the other levels. So, from the three characteristics, you go to the next three where it says greed, delusion, and aversion. I prefer not to use the word greed, because when I think of the three negative emotions, I always say greed. I use passion, aggression, delusion, because if you use those three words, it's really easy to understand. With greed, makes me forget, but I go passion, delusion, and aversion. Okay, passion, aversion, those are the wanting and the not wanting, and delusion. And then that goes out to all the particular things of what the self is made up of. And then that goes into the Four Noble Truths, and that goes into the Wheel of Life, and that goes into all, so it goes into, the dependent origination, the Noble Eightfold Path, the four foundations of mindfulness. We'll touch on all of these, the 37 requisites for enlightenment. Now, those are quite difficult on this sheet, the 37 requisites. But what I realized was that if you remember when Lama Yeshe Rinpoche asked us to do the 37, I'll just tell you what he called it, just so that you don't get mixed up. And a lot of you will have this from long ago, and some of you won't have it from long ago. Okay, but that's really, really important. We did the practice, and I think we should go back to doing the 37 practices of enlightenment, because I think it's really, really important for all of us to really understand that. Just let me get this. Where did I put it? The 37 practices for enlightenment. There were the 37 verses on the practice of a bodhisattva. We won't do that now, but thanks, Bern, that you've got it. Okay, those, a lot of you have got, and if you haven't got it, ask Bern to send it to you. Because when you do it as a practice, and we should do it again in these groups as one of our prayers, because it's really beautiful. It tells you exactly, it's like packing your bag on the way to liberation. When you've got that bag, it's so amazing, because then you know exactly what you're doing. And then it goes on to the 10 perfections. And after the 10 perfections, it goes on to the 4 divine abodes. Those are the 4 immeasurables of love, passion, all of those that you've got. So it goes on to that. Then it goes on to the 10 fetters. These are the things that create delusion, and it goes on to that. And then it goes on to the 4 stages of realization, much out, which are the 4 stages of realization, are the stream enterer. That's somebody who's come in and done all sufficient work to get onto the stream, and really they'll have 7 more lifetimes until they attain enlightenment. And then you've got the once returner. That's somebody that's done all the work, and now they've got to come back once more. Then you've got the non-returner, somebody who's going to make it in this life. And then you've got the fully liberated being, who of course doesn't come back for any incarnations unless they choose to do it. Now that's what we want. We want to choose to come back or not. not be catapulted like in the wheel of life that we see how the one thing causes the other, which I'll go through. But I really think that it's so amazing when you look at this and you actually realize. So let's start, and then stop me and ask me whatever you want to know. But let's start with the 3 characteristics of samsara, or of phenomena, including ourselves, how we live in samsara. Well, the 3 characteristics are impermanence, which in Sanskrit is anicca. Anicca, you'll see in a lot of the higher teachings, or when Dzongsa teaches, it's anicca. Impermanence, suffering or unsatisfactoriness, which is dukkha. Dukkha. And that's the 4 noble truths. And you'll see how in each of these things, this includes that, that includes this includes that. They're all actually one and the same thing. They're just going towards how do you get over delusion and get past suffering, okay? So suffering and unsatisfactoriness is dukkha, which are the 4 noble truths, which we'll do very, very briefly. And then the last one is no self, which in Sanskrit is called anatta. Anatta. And those are the 5 aggregates. So you'll see the 5 aggregates later, which are what the Buddha taught, which is what you think your own self is made up of: form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations or habits, and that becomes your consciousness, your human consciousness. And we think that's true. We don't want to see it as impermanent. And what people do, I'm really horrified to see how many people take their faces and start, I don't mind if you take a few wrinkles off your face, but when people start to do this and this and this in order, and all those things in order not to die, in order not to get old, in order not to face that you're getting old. But getting old is part of life and living, and part of what you really need to face, even if you make yourself look better. That's part of what you need. It's part of impermanence. It's part of our lives. I remember someone telling me that every wrinkle on her face represented some suffering she'd been through, So I like that, that made me. But it's so strange because one of my own cousins, who's kind of not quite my age, but nearly my age, she just went and had a total facelift and everything. And when I saw a picture of her, I thought, like, who is this? Why are people doing this to this degree? It's to fix yourself up a bit, nothing really harmful in that. But what is it? It's actually a fear of impermanence. Whereas, I remember, what was his name? Rinpoche, just let me remember his name. One of his disciples told him he was very ugly. Okay, he isn't a particularly attractive one. I'll remember his name in a minute. So in his next incarnation, because I had a girl in retreat next to me who just adored him, and one or two of his disciples said, Rinpoche, you're so beautiful. Why were you born so ugly? So in the next incarnation, this one, he came as this gorgeous hunk. There was a picture of him on a motorbike, Probably his disciples wished for him to be like that, And unfortunately, he got involved in drugs. But I think he got out of it because, he was in that world. So it was better for him to be not so attractive, But these are our. And when you look at it, it's such a funny, it's such a funny thing because, what happens is these 3, impermanence, suffering, and no self, describe the nature of reality. The nature of reality. Everything's impermanent. everything's unstable and everything in our lives is subject to change. Okay? The suffering and the no self stem from being impermanent, changing conditions, clinging to a self. Now, that clinging and that craving is right through that whole wheel, the clinging and the craving. Because when you look at the craving, you know, I know lots of people who say to me, you know what, Melanie, I smoke weed every day, and, you know, it's not really doing anything. It makes me chill. It takes off everything. And they tell me this over and over again. But I'm asking, why can't you chill without the weed? Because eventually the weed's not enough. And the craving for something, the craving takes you into addictions. Because the craving on the wheel of life is exactly where you have to change. So when you've got a feeling, the feeling starts going into thirsting and craving. And that's when you've got to change. You've got to look at yourself and take cognizance of what's happening to you. And that is the only thing that people can really do to stop the addictions that we've got on this planet. It's to really look at the clinging and the craving. The clinging to a self will definitely cause suffering as soon as it changes. So ignorance, which is ignoring the truth, ignorance results in suffering, and realizing the truth results in liberation. That's why I've said to all of you, when I'm giving boring lectures or I'm repeating myself or whatever, then I want one of you to come and say, Melanie, please bow out gracefully. And then Guru Rinpoche can take me home after that. But the thing is, we have to accept that it's all changing. It's all impermanent. And the dynamite you might have once had will run out. The energy will run out. So those three characteristics really, really teach us. And I've got this lovely quick story of the Venerable Ananda, the monk who was the attendant and the closest disciple to the Buddha, was passing through a rural village one day. As he was thirsty, he neared the village well, and seeing there a young girl, he requested of her a cup of water to drink. The girl said to him, "Oh, great monk, I'm unworthy to give water to you. Please do not ask this of me, for I would only cause you impurity. I am a child of the lowest caste in this village." Now think about the story. The great monk Ananda looked at her with eyes of compassion and said, "I did not ask you for your caste, but for a drink of water." Now think of this story. It's really a very early Buddhist story, because, you know, in India, when the Buddha came, he actually saw that the caste system put people into such lower realms, and they believed it. They grew up thinking, you are impure, you are of the lowest caste. And that was one of the things that the Buddha said in his mind, I've got to change this. That's why he took the Hindu philosophy and upgraded it kind of with the Buddhist philosophy, because he needed to get this, you know, you're lower than me. Even the insect is not lower than anybody because it's got Buddha nature. So it's really, really important to look at those three characteristics of samsara and know that lots of teaching, if you look, I couldn't find it, but Zongsa, I think Zongsa Khyentse and James Lowe gave teachings on the three characteristics of samsara on YouTube. Go and look them up, because it's very, very interesting to listen to them. And from that comes the next teaching, the three wholesome roots, the three unwholesome roots. Okay, now I always called that negative emotions, but the three wholesome roots are passion or greed, which is attraction to something that is pleasant, aversion, which is resistance to what is unpleasant, and delusion is not seeing the three characteristics. And these three, passion, aggression, and delusion, if you break them down, they come into the 5 poisons: anger, jealousy, all of them, pride, ignorance, and passion, and craving, attachment, and the passion. Those 3 are the summary of all those negative emotions, and they are the source of our attitudes and our behavior, which result in suffering. So important. So I don't know if at this stage anybody wants to say anything or ask anything. You're really welcome. Butt in, because this is your stuff for you to ponder. Just looking at the overall thing, it's so fascinating that the Buddha had to work out what to say. And a lot of you are past all of these things, you've gone into them, but maybe you haven't integrated them yet. So while you're thinking of what you want to ask, there was a question that was posed to the Dalai Lama. This is the question: what thing about humanity surprises you the most? His answer was as follows: man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices his money to recuperate his health. Then he's so anxious about the future that he doesn't enjoy the present. And as a result, he doesn't live in the present or the future, and he lives as if he's never going to die, and then he dies having never really lived. I think that's an amazing thing to see. And true. So anything you want to ask at this stage or comment on or anything, because we're going to go a little bit out onto that wheel. Anybody? Are you all okay? All make sense? Anybody want to complain, contradict, ask anything about their families? Please do, because this is the time. Okay, if you're all very good. I mean, I would want to ask 500 questions about all of this, but I think all of you know it very well. Then we come to the 5 aggregates. Okay, this is what the Buddha taught, which was so important. The 5 aggregates: form, feelings. Your feelings then become the way you perceive things, your perceptions. The perceptions become your memory, your mental formation, your memory. The perceptions are your memory. And then that comes to the mental formations or the habits. When you do something on and on and on and on, you perceive it in a particular way. You know how we are with people. And then people say, can't you see my point of view? No, because our habit formation is really, really important because we keep doing it. And that leads to consciousness, the human consciousness. What is your consciousness like? How aware are you? It's very interesting because 2 people on one day, isn't that interesting, told me that their children, might even be their grandchildren, were actually extremely rude and abusive to them. And 2 people, different people on, in different things. It's so interesting how it happens for me like that in one day. So both of them said that their children or grandchildren were very, very rude and said something really hurtful and nasty. Now it's interesting because I came across both of those not in counseling. where I was that day, I came across both of those people. And I asked the question, what was this child trying to tell you when he said what you regarded as a really nasty thing? Now, what the child was doing in both instances, I won't go into it in case those people listen to this lecture, but, both of them were rude. And I said, but let's try and listen. Put the question mark. What was this child telling you? And when they told me, the child was telling them, the child was defending their side and not wanting the parent to do the thing that would actually offend the child, even though the mother didn't realize that she was actually doing that. And I said, when you come to talk to the person, you have to look at what are they trying to say? And then instead of your habit of defending yourself, you listen. What is this child telling me? And when you hear what the child is telling you, it changes your whole perception and it changes your whole habit. Anyway, the good news was that both of them tried it and it worked. Okay. They weren't anything to do with each other, but it really worked because, of course, the child lost its defenses and the relationship was restored. Glory, hallelujah. Now think about these five actual aggregates of self. Your form is changing all the time. Your feelings are all biased from your own karma, your own conditioning. Then those feelings become your perceptions. You just don't see everything in the same way. It's so interesting because this morning I was getting calls and we had these people coming to install the water system and my phone was ringing and I said to Josh, why are you so late? You should be doing this. And he said to me, because you were late in the bathroom. Now, the interesting thing is that I was very early out of the bathroom this morning. And he commented to me that you're so early, because I said today I need to be early. It's my last group and everything. But he still used the habit of saying, because you made me late. How did I make him late? Based on the habit of before, I made him late, but I didn't make him late. He made himself late. So was there any point in going, but I came out of the bathroom so early, blah, blah, blah. No point. But later on in the day, I might go and say, it's interesting that you accused me, but actually you commented on how early I was this morning. But our habit then becomes our consciousness. And we get so used to our consciousness, we can't change. And when you're on a spiritual path, the universe demands the change. So right in front of you comes that impelling those real difficult relationships. And we have to see it. We have to experience it. We have to say, aha, I can see that this is a completely different thing for me. Anything you want to say, just butt in when you do, because all of this is very tangible. I'm trying to put the blanket on, but you're lying on it. Sorry, habit. And think about this, what I'm saying. They all point to a clinging to me or mine, a clinging to me or mine. And those factors which produce the experience of the self and world. And isn't it fascinating how you start with the characteristics, you move out to the negative emotions, you move out to the aggregates, now you move out to the Four Noble Truths. Now, we've studied the Four Noble Truths 1,000,001 times, okay? But just think about this in relation to what I'm saying. The Four Noble Truths were what the Buddha decided to teach first. He didn't teach the 3 characteristics first, because that would have made people uptight. He turned the wheel of Dharma 3 times. You know this, but I'll just give it to you in summary form. What he did was, he said in the first noble truth, life as you are leading it in samsara is suffering, dukkha. It's suffering. You can see how that relates to the 3 characteristics. It is suffering the way you are living it. Then he went to noble truth number 2, and he said, but there is a cause of suffering, meaning if you know the cause, you could extinguish the cause. And he put there negative emotions and karma. What you've done before comes back to bite you. On the sheet, they said, you have to make your craving cease, and then suffering ceases. Remember that. You have to make your craving cease, and then suffering ceases. Listen, by the way, all of you, I'm very happy to take one topic and really do it in great depth. I'm doing it very summary for you today, but I mean, every single one. You want to go back next year, we can easily do a teaching on each one. There's enough to teach on each subject. But I'm just giving it to you in brief. So he said, there is a cause of suffering. And if you know the cause, once you know the cause, you can eliminate the cause. If you know that your tantrum keeps getting you into an ugly situation, you have to look in the mirror and say, what am I having a tantrum about? Then you go deeper and you say, because I'm really insecure, and because this person makes me insecure, and this person says things to me. Then I always go deeper with people and I say, and why is this person in front of you? This person is in front of you because it is Birra-like wisdom, because you have created the cause and you have manifested this ugly person in front of you. So if you can see that this ugly person is teaching you something, then you can eliminate the cause, because then you can listen and say, maybe I did do wrong. Maybe I did hurt. Maybe I did use negative emotions. And then you can change it. Not craving for everybody to be nice to you. What would this world be like if we were all nice? It would be very pleasant, but nobody would learn anything. We'd just be these very nice people and very bland. We would have no need to try and find out any truth. So that's the second noble truth. Third one, the Buddha said, there is a cessation to suffering. If you understand your craving and you go to your awakened mind, and I will teach you how to do that. If you go to your awakened mind, you will eliminate the suffering, and there is a place where suffering doesn't have the same meaning, and you can get it to cease. And in the fourth noble truth, here I am, I'm giving you the eightfold path so that you can really change your life. So the eightfold path is in the next layer of this wheel, where it is your right view. A view is everything. I mean, La Milena is always saying the view in Tibetan is called tawa. She says, if you haven't got tawa, you'll never get anywhere. The right view is being able to go in the helicopter and see that this forest you were lost in is a tiny square in the panorama, and it's given to you because of your own creation. So you've got the right view, the right intention, the right speech, the right action, the right livelihood, the right effort, the right mindfulness, and the right concentration. All the aspects support and reinforce each other, providing a stable base for the cultivation of insight. You get to see what your life is really about. instead of the delusions of the wrong perceptions of why you are in this. When I see the number of people in my life that are dominating, particularly my marital relationship has gone on for many, many years. I mean, we were both dominating people. So I would fight like a little tigress in the beginning. I don't fight a lot. I might say one nasty word and then it's over. You know, I'm on to the next thing. There's no time. But when I look deeply, this is what I created in order to subdue my feeling of wanting to control people or my dominating attitudes. So when I look at it like that, in my prayers, I say, thank you, because I have to learn to subjugate myself in some way to work for some people. I've got very strong, powerful children. And when they always told me what to do, there would be huge fights. Those fights don't exist. I just go, okay, and do exactly what I want after that. But I'm not getting into the arena. And I know I produce them, and I produce them so that I can see that strength could be a very negative force, because it could be a force that doesn't allow you to have compassion, but makes you defend your perceptions. You're all concentrating, but nobody's saying a word, okay? But you know what I'm saying. If it hits the buttons, then I'm very happy, because you can ponder your own lives, okay? And when we go to the next one, that is the wheel of life, okay? That the Buddha taught the wheel of life. This was also called the wheel of Buddhist terms, basically, but the wheel of life.
Melanie,
yes,
sorry.
I
I asked you the same question last week. So when you say cause and effect, so you said you took yourself as an example. You created that. Does it mean you created in your human relative mind, or you bring your karmic imprint, or combination of everything?
Both. Exactly, both. Because basically, your human consciousness, which is at the end of the self, your human consciousness gets you into the troubles, okay? Creates the causes by your response to everything, your perceptions, your habits, and all of that, and your consciousness. And then, in a way, you could say your Buddha nature, I often call that the universe, because it's interesting, you know. Your Buddha nature will give you all, or the universe will give you those situations that will give you a chance, an opportunity, open portal to unity with your true nature. Because what are we doing here if not getting opportunities? Okay, so we're getting opportunities to go back. So the harder the life is, tomorrow night I'm going to do this beautiful text by the third Drupchen Rinpoche, which is called transformation of adversity and felicity, which is happiness. Okay, both. Like people go, I don't want to transform felicity. You do, you know, because if you don't transform happiness, it starts becoming a craving or a sense of entitlement, or this isn't enough, I want more. You know, people, when they have a lot of money, they want more money. They're just making money all the time, you know. So think about it, it's both. The cause is set in motion by your human consciousness, and the result, and what happens to you is set in motion by the universe, by the essence, by your nature, which puts that in your way so that you can learn the opportunity of changing. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very clear to all of you. So very briefly, let's look at the wheel of life. Bern, you asked for it, but just let's go through it. And you can go back. I've done a whole lot of lectures on the wheel of life. During the holidays, go back, go down the playlist, and you'll see there the wheel of life, because then it's really, really easy for you to just go back through it. And we should go through it all the time. It's called the 12 nidanas, or the 12 links of interdependent co-arising, because each thing arises as a result. And in the middle of that wheel, and you've got there passion, aggression, delusion. And in the middle of the wheel, the Buddha put the rooster, the snake, and the pig. Okay, and those were just symbolic ways of writing passion, aggression. Yeah, there you go. Passion, aggression, and delusion. What happened was the pig is definitely the passion, you know, the rooster, the pig is the delusion or ignorance. He just eats his way through. The snake is the aggression, and the pig is and the rooster is the passions. I don't know why, attachment, because it's always coo, 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 whatever it's doing, you know. But anyway, those are the three animals in the middle of the wheel of life. So let's just look at this. Take it off, Bern, so that I can see you. Let's just look at this in a brief way, and please go back and listen. I've done lectures, there are millions of lectures all over on the Wheel of Life if you don't know it well. But you've got 12 links, and each link shows you the karma on a relative level and what you are creating. All of these are the same, they're just different ways of doing it. So your first two links, ignorance, represented by the blind grandmother. The blind grandmother, okay? The blind grandmother means the generations of habits that you couldn't see, represented by the blind grandmother, your ignoring of the truth. Plus, your volitional action, and that your volitional action is how you choose to respond when you are the blind grandmother. Do you respond with anger? Do you hurt? Do you do all these kind of things? The ignorance plus your volitional action leads to the present karma. What you are going through in this particular life comes from ignorance and volitional activity. So when you come to the present existence, you've got your consciousness, which I've just given you, the end result of thinking. You've got a self, your rebirth consciousness, how you are born, whether you are aware or not aware, whether you are blind or not, your consciousness, called the rebirth consciousness, and it's got all the imprints impelling you. Then you've got the name and form, how you look, how you are, whether you're blind, whether you're beautiful, whether you're fat, whether you're thin, all of that, the result of this present consciousness. Then you've got your 6 sense organs, which are represented by 6 windows in a house. Those are your ears, your eyes, all of that leading out into the world. Those are your 6 sense organs. And then your sense organs have contact with each thing. So in other words, when you see something, you've got your contact with it. Your eye consciousness, your visual consciousness gives you the contact with whatever you're seeing. If you're blind, you've got to use a different sense. But each of the consciousnesses have an object, okay? And that gives you your feeling. Here's your feeling. Because you like some things, you don't like some things, you don't care about some things, you're indifferent, your feeling. And depending on your feeling, the next thing is craving, thirsting. Between feeling and craving, you could stop. You could stop and you could change everything. Okay? You could change everything in your life and you could stop the craving. But if you go to the craving, if you go straight into it, you give in, you do the whole thing with the craving, then the next thing is called grasping. Now you're taking whatever's happening and you are holding it, you're grasping onto it, okay? And guess what leads, what's the next thing on the wheel of life? It's called becoming. So after you've craved and grasped and becoming, now that goes into, that's what you're doing in this life. Now that goes into the next life. Because the impelling consciousness that you've created pushes you into the last two. The last two are called rebirth and old age and death. So again, into the future, coming from all of that. So to go through that very, very clearly, we are masters, not victims. We can steer and transform our karma. So from ignorance and volition, little you can do because you're now born with all those circumstances in your present life. Don't decry them. Don't moan about them. These are what you needed for this life. Now your sense organs go out to the contacts and your feelings go with it out to the contacts. And whether you go to craving, I want more of this, I want less of this. You know, when I was looking at that Jeffrey Epstein whole saga in the USA, I mean, it comes from absolute sensual desire and no morality, taking and luring young girls in. And so many of the leaders were involved in all of this. It's so despicable. These girls' lives were changed by it. But they can also change and not be changed by it. They can say, what happened to me was damn awful, but what did it teach me? And what can I learn? And how can I help other people to avoid that? And how can I have forgiveness for my persecutor? How can I not be a victim? How can I carry on my life in a completely different way? So when you come to that craving and then grasping and then becoming, you become that you didn't even want to, you're now on the path. And then it goes into the next lifetime. Now just listen to the last teaching I'm giving on the wheel. Physical imprints, whatever physical imprints you make. So let's take this case we were talking about. Made many physical imprints because of really harming the physicality of a lot of other people. Okay, physical imprints become the body of the next life. So if you have inflicted terrible things on people's body, you're going to come back with really a deformed body or something like that. And you're going to say, oh God, why did this happen to me? But meanwhile, it was your creation. It was your impelling consciousness that brings you into that. Your verbal imprints become the quality of your speech. So people who really find it hard to speak, those verbal imprints were made before. Maybe with rudeness, maybe with abuse, whatever. But the verbal imprints become the quality of speech. And the mental imprints become the mind of the next life. The wheel of life, called dependent origination. Go and read up if you haven't done it for a long time. Go and listen. I've done a whole lot of lectures on it, okay? But I'm giving you the whole overall today. Because when you when you do the rest of the stuff, and I'm going to do it very, very, very briefly with you because we can't possibly do everything that's on this, but I hope you all get a good idea from this because I want to do a lovely long meditation with you. But if you think about it, the next thing is the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Okay, and you can all have the wheel and look at it yourself. So in the mindfulness, you do contemplation of the body. So in that you use breathing, postures, elements, all those kind of things of examining your body. Sometimes, you know, you'll do a mindfulness meditation of looking right through the body and seeing where you hold the tension and all of that. That's the contemplation of the body. Then you do the contemplation of the feeling. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. But what you're doing in the mindfulness training is, because I'm always a bit worried with the mindfulness training because mindfulness was a Buddhist term. And now today in the world, it's become a very, you know, what can I say? It's used a lot and people say, I'm doing mindfulness training and mindfulness training in Buddhism is a very deep training. And when you contemplate the feeling, you're going through what is unpleasant to you, what is pleasant to you, what is neutral to you. But the bare, B-A-R-E, experience is looking right into the feelings. Now, Lama Lena gave a beautiful teaching on this because, you know, they were talking about feelings and thoughts. So she said, open your hand like that and look at me through your hands. Okay, look at me through your hands. Can you see me? So they all said, yes. She said, now, I want you to focus on your fingers, not what's through your fingers. I want you to focus on your fingers. She said, and see what a difference. Can you see me? They said, no, we can't because we're focusing on, she said, now that is like your feelings and your thoughts. If you focus on them, they become tangible and inflict you. If you look through them, you can, that's called bare attention. You can see that there's no solidity. There's no self. There's nothing that is permanent. There's nothing that is tangible. But if you thoughts and feelings, then you can't go beyond it. But if you look beyond, you'll see that they're just part of the essence and they dissolve on their own thing. And then there's the mindfulness, the contemplation of the mind. You see as perception, your mind perception, but you're not identifying with them as reality. You're just seeing these are creations of the mind. It's okay. Let them dissolve. Let them go back. And contemplation of the mind objects, that's similar to what I'm saying, looking at what you're seeing, not tangible, not permanent. Okay, so I'm just giving you very, very brief overall. It's a lot to absorb, but you can go back and listen again, because then it comes to the 10 perfections. Now, a lot of you know the parameters. You can Google the parameters. Those are the perfections. Usually, you'll get 6 parameters, but in very in-depth teaching, you get 10 parameters. What are the 10 parameters? What does parameter mean? It means going beyond just the absolute, if like the first one's generosity. So there's generosity, which is very nice. You give something to a beggar, and then there's the parameter of generosity, which means you are totally open with everything. The compassion of your Buddha nature shining through you. So you've got generosity, morality. Morality must never be not being able to do anything. The morality must never, ever be that. It must be an ethical, beautiful force through you. You don't cheat people. You do things that are really beneficial for people. Patience. I mean, How many of us learn the parameter of patience through our kids, through our everything? It's really one of the biggest. Patience, diligence, meditation, wisdom, the final wisdom, which is beyond intellect, it's wisdom. And then you add on to that the other four: truthfulness, determination, loving kindness, and equanimity. I'm not going into them because I've got to give you a meditation and there's just too much, but I'm just giving you a whole overall. And then there's the four divine abodes, which are the immeasurables, which are loving, may all beings have happiness and create the causes, which is loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy. That's when you can get joy from other people's joy, not jealousy, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. So those are the four. You steer the mind towards acceptance and away from regret and ill will. Okay? And then there are the 10 fetters. I'm hardly even going to go into them because there's so much to teach on them. And we can, if you really want one, text me and say, I'd like you to teach on it next year. I'll be very happy to do it. But the self-belief again, concrete self, doubt in the teachings all the time, always doubting everything in your life and in the teachings. Belief in rituals, that's when you think a ritual is an end in itself. When a ritual is only the boat to cross the ocean, all of this is only the boat to cross the ocean. Once you're in your Buddha nature, it's all absolutely natural. Sensual desire, we just spoke about, ill will, anger, negativity, desire for material existence, desire for immaterial existence. I don't really understand that. They put it as craving disembodiment. Like some people, I think, always want to die. They don't want to be in this world. They don't want to be, they don't want to be physical. They just want to be otherworldly. I think that's what it is. Conceit, which is arrogance, restlessness, and ignorance. Okay, and then there are the 37 practices of enlightenment, which we can do. I'll do a few at the end of a meditation, but those are really, what can you do? How should you react if you really want to be enlightened? And these are the practices which you get, the 37 practices of enlightenment or of a bodhisattva. It's really important. So it's a lot, Bern, eh? It's a lot of stuff, but it's very, very repetitive. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of the same things of impermanence and no self. So if you go back to the essence of it, it's impermanence, no self, dukkha, suffering. Those are the three things that are what go all over, even on the wheel of life, on absolutely everything. They just go over and over and over. So, anyone want to say anything? How do you feel about it? Does it make sense to you? I mean, this is what we've done over all the years. You can go and get whatever you want off the internet, off the YouTubes, off my teaching, off anything that you want. David, maybe you want to make a comment now that I've commented on the whole thing, because this is your contribution to all of us.
I found the wheel just helped me at a glance, so to speak, get a snapshot of all the different elements. And as you've so well explained today, from those three characteristics, and then moving outward to all the aspects of the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, and then the specifics. So for my attention deficit, it was really helpful just to be able to get a map. I know the map is not the territory.
Yep.
And I found at night when I have insomnia, I actually go through the different categories within that wheel, and it helps me, it gives me peace. It calms my night terrors and helps me to fall asleep.
Good. I'm so pleased what you're saying, because this is your teaching that I've just adopted and, put into some kind of form, but it's beautiful. I mean, when you see this and you see this wheel, and then you see, the teaching is minute. That's why I didn't send it to Bern, because, this is the thing that David sent me, and this is all the teaching underneath. And they've got explanation. It really would be divine if we could have these printed.
So what I could do is just get a whole bunch of those printed and send them to you, and then you can mail them off to whoever wants them.
Oi.
Because they comes wrapped up, laminated in a cylinder, which is very easy to mail.
Yeah,
David, sorry,
Yes.
can I say something? Maybe if you could actually get it scanned and then email the scan, and we can take it to a postnet. And so you don't have to go to any hassle. You've already done the job of getting that wonderful bit of information. So just take it to a postnet and have it scanned. A lot of them have those large format scanners. I used to sell those things, so I know that for a fact. So get them to scan it, and then you just email the scan.
Sure thing. I'll take. I have a copy. I have one of the posters with me. I'll take it into the local postnet, and if that would be the easiest by far.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Because
you.
I think for all of you, don't you think it would be lovely to have this teaching and this thing? And you just go, and when you've got time, the wheel you can get from Bern now, the actual wheel. But if you just look on that wheel and see how it interacts, how it is, you get such an idea of yourself and your life and what the Buddha was trying to do, how he could teach it without going into here. And just by the way, I'm coming to you now, Damika. What I didn't say to you when I was doing the Four Noble Truths was that the Buddha gave that teaching on the first turning. On the second turning, when he did it to a higher audience, let's say, people that could understand more, he said, life is suffering and you need to understand this. There's origins of suffering and you need to understand this, and so on with the Four Truths. The third time he dealt with it, he was already teaching emptiness to people. So at that stage, he was dealing with people who had been subjected to Vajrayana and to a little bit more of Mahayana, where emptiness was gone. And so in the third teaching of the Four Noble Truths, he said, life is suffering and you need to understand it. But actually, there's nothing to understand. Nothing. Okay, nothing. You have to understand it. Then you need to let it dissolve into emptiness, and so on and so forth. That's a very important point, because, sorry, Damika, you wanted to say something? No. So it's very important, because as you go on, it's just very good. It was good for me, David, to actually take this and roll it up, unroll it the other way and look at all the things and see what they said. Some of them are quite complex, but I just made it as simple as possible, so that people can understand. But really, the essence is going to the middle and understanding impermanence, no self, and suffering, dukkha. And those three, you actually branch out into absolutely everything from that. And that's difficult. It's really, really difficult. Because how do you tell a parent who says, my child died and it was the most tragic thing, and it was tragic for that mother, absolutely. My child died and it was tragic. And, what I'm actually saying is it was tragic, but that was exactly like the one mother says to me, if I had done X, Y, and Z, my child would still be here. And I have to say, I doubt it. I can't say no, I'm not the universe to decide, but I said I doubt it. Because when you tell me your story, It sounds like your child was completed with what he needed to do. So you can get over your guilt, because your guilt is becoming your habit formation and it's useless. But let's do a meditation, just going into everything a little bit. Try and get a nice posture. I've done so much talking today in this group and before I got here today. So my voice sounds a little bit crazy, but I want you to just breathe in and breathe out and check your body, where you're holding things, where your tension is. Just check right through, do a body scan quickly, and just breathe into the places where there's tension. And if it's in your stomach, breathe into it. Wherever the tension is, breathe into that. Relax, relax. Remember, if you want to see the truth, you must be relaxed. The minute you are tense, the minute you are uptight, you cannot do this in any way or any form. So relax your physical body. And the first thing I want you to do is to just appreciate the fact that you've been exposed to all this teaching. Just think of how many lifetimes it might have taken you to wake up. But each and every one of you have woken up, some to a great degree, some to a lesser degree, and that's okay. But the fact that you are aware, you are awake, you are putting in that energy, that is absolutely exquisite. And relish in it. Celebrate. Don't start saying to yourself, I don't understand this, and I haven't done this, and I haven't done enough, and I haven't done my practice. Start from now, this very, very minute. And say, from this very minute, my main practice in life is never to be ignorant again. Ignorance, ignore the truth. Never to put my version of my intellect, of my background, of my pain, never to put that as an excuse to be a victim or an excuse not to do what you need to do. You really cannot use that anymore. It is absolutely imperative that you understand everything here. Just go into impermanence. The beauty of impermanence is that any minute now, it could all be over if you're in a negative state. And no self. When I look in the mirror and I see myself, why am I always critical? I can see, I can hear, I'm aware. I've got the power to do the things I need to do with my life. How grateful are you? And I now want you to just down your pathway, go to some of your feelings lately about your circumstances, about your plights, about your problems, about difficult relationships, about having to make decisions, of the pain sometimes of your children, their suffering. But at the same time as you go down that, you're also saying, but I am so blessed that I have found this true teaching and that I can see things for what they really are. And I want you today to just go into, I'm not going to call it craving, because most of you aren't addicts, and I think addicts are the ones that really do craving. I want you to just look at thirsting, wanting more, wanting more. Look at where it is in your life. Do I want more out of my relationships, any particular ones? Do I want more out of myself when I'm trying my best on my spiritual path? Am I craving to be enlightened even? What is my thirsting? See what is unhealthy and what is healthy, maybe to be balanced more. But see where your pitfalls are, where you're falling into that hole every time. Just become aware. Don't condemn yourself. Don't whip yourself. Just become totally aware of what you keep doing, your habit formations, your mental formations, from the memory that you have, from your perception. Have a look at that and see that with your habit, you can change your consciousness. Remember, your human consciousness belongs to the senses, the mind consciousness, identifying what you see, what you hear, what you taste. And then the klesha consciousness, which is your feeling. I don't like this and I don't want it, and I like this and I want more of it, and I'm indifferent to this. Just have a look at your life and see where you could pick up, where you could change the craving from the feeling. You could change the thirsting and become a little more generally at peace and at calm. And when you look at the wheel of life, look at your impelling consciousness. We think that we have free will. We could choose everything. We can choose a lot, but mostly we are, I'm not going to say victims, we are the result of our impelling consciousness. So if you are being dragged into something over and over and over again, sit down on your hands and knees and say, thank you. I get it. I get what I'm supposed to learn. I will change my whole way. I will not go from ignorance and what I chose to do through, I can't do anything about this life, what I've got, but I can change how I respond for the future. And I can see my impelling consciousness from the imprints I created before. And I am becoming aware of them so that I don't allow them to just pull me in. I'm aware and I stop myself with that habit. We are all very blessed, very, very blessed, and very lucky to have come across this in a life. When you listen to these masters, they say, if you came across the Buddha Dharma in this life, you are so blessed, because it means you were ready. You did a lot before. Do a lot now and move out of the craving and the attachment, and look at your negative situations and be grateful that they can teach you, learn the lesson as quickly as you possibly can. And just the mindfulness, or we call it awareness. Remember that if you allow what you are feeling to come up and you just observe it without getting involved in analysis, in deciding, in making a plan, in all of those kind of things, if you just watch it and let it be, its very nature will go back to the essence. And then you won't have to do anything about it. Just allow it to be. I am going to stay around if anyone wants to ask or chat or anything that you want. I'm very happy because this is our last session. But I'm dedicating mostly to all of you because I really want you to wake up. That is my motivation. I want you to wake up and I want you to see clearly and I want you to overcome the difficulties in your life and see that you are really privileged to know why they are there and not get hooked and trapped in them. Sorrow you go through, no matter what pain you go through, those are all the way of actually being able to get there, to get to impermanence, no self. If there's no self, then why am I crying about it? I'm crying because I think this is terrible. If I'm sick, why am I crying about it? Maybe I must look at what is the body telling me and look deeply at it and see what we are going through, see and understand it. So let's dedicate for every single sentient being, even this little restless dog here who wants me to open some doors. For all sentient beings, we dedicate. The ones in wars, the ones trying to make peace, the ones trying to work with what they've got, all of them we dedicate. If there's any goodness that comes out of the teaching, through this merit, may all beings attain omniscience, may all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may all beings be free. Sonam die tamche zipane topne nepe dranam kamshene chegana chi balak topaye sipe sole doa dro warsho. And I hope you all have the most beautiful end of the year time and that you contemplate and that you've got a bit of space for yourselves and that you have beautiful holidays. I'm going to stay now, but I'm going to